it to you.
Yeah.
Microphones are like cars. Okay. You can get a Camry. I can go back and forth a mile to the grocery store with a Camry all day long. It's going to work fine. They sold 300,000 last year. It's no problem at all. Okay. My neighbor across the street has got a Mustang GT. It's got the Coyote model with 460 horsepower. If I got that, I could go back and forth. Boy, I could really go back to the store quickly. What if I win the lottery and I get a Dodge Hellfire 700 horsepower car? I could really go to that giant fast quickly, back and forth. The problem is that speed limit's 25 miles an hour in front of my house here. So who cares the type of microphone you choose? And so that's why I say microphones are like cars. I think if you get a USB microphone for a podcast, it's going to be absolutely fine. Get one you think sounds good, and then go ahead, start being consistent with your podcast and promote it. I think it's a fine choice. I have 3 or 4 different samples here. It's going to play. Technical difficulties, do me allow it to. Now, let's say you want to impress the neighbors. You want a little bit better quality. Well, you can go up and get an XLR mic and a mixer, and that's fine. I have pictures of Sennheiser mics here. You can get Heil mics, or all kinds of good ones. Everywhere from $200 for the mic around there, $500-600 for a mixer, all kinds of pricings everywhere. I usually go to B&H and get them. So that gives a little bit better quality. It's analog quality. Now, what if you want to really bump up the quality and get professional? Well, Hubbard Broadcasting invested $25 million into their studio right here in Bethesda off of Western Avenue. I think it's Chevy Chase. Best studio, best microphones, best audio engineers, best service, best everything. Now, I've recorded in all 3, and I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze. I don't. I think it's more qualities to a podcast besides the microphone. I think it's important, but that important. So let's talk a little bit more about the cars. So Toyota Camry, it's a pretty good car. Not going to impress anyone, going to hold up. I think if you're one person with a Zoom podcast, USB is going to be fine. You get 2 people in a room, USBs don't play well together with each other. You can share a microphone, that gets kind of awkward. If you're going to have 2 people face to face, you probably want to get an XLR1. An XLR ones usually have an analog recording, so it's a little bit better quality. It's fine. And if you want to go to the expense of renting a studio, boy, that gets to be pretty expensive. And I don't know if the quality is all that much better. So those are the 3 different types of microphones. My transition here would be a recording from the HP Envy condenser microphone. I have 2 headsets. One is a Yamaha headset. Another is this one. This is a Cool Master Pro and 650. So what I do when I get stuck, I just call up someone with a CBNE behind their name, Certified Broadcast Networking Engineer, CBNE. And they get their certification from the Society for Broadcast Engineers. I've been married 38 years. My wife tells me I don't listen. I don't listen, but the CBNEs do. Believe me, they know. I mean, if you can record a musician in Los Angeles or Deutsche Grammophon in Germany, I mean, they really, really know their microphones. And so what I do is I just call them up and say, what kind of headset do you recommend? The MH650. It's a gamer headset. It's got lights on the side. So I trust what they have to say. And so if you really want to get into this and you want to debate 10 hours on what kind of microphone, just get a hold of the CBNE and they'll argue through the weekend on this. But rather than spending 10 hours arguing about microphones, why don't you send those 10 hours and promote the microphone, promote the podcast? That's what you should do. When it comes to microphones, I'm not going to argue about, directional microphones and condenser microphones and in studio and live and ambient noise. I let the pros handle that. I focus on promoting it and doing a good job with the interviews. Now, what people don't talk about is using their microphone to promote their podcast. I always get flags on my microphone. I have a picture here somewhere of a flag. I always have a flag for a microphone. And what I do is if I'm at a trade show recording on the floor, I always have a microphone with a flag in front of the guest. I'll hire a professional photographer to take pictures. So you take these pictures and wow, this really tells a story. Great for LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, tells the story real well. And the people love to have their pictures in front of them. They put that on their LinkedIn profile. I've had 20, 50 people put their picture with my flag on their LinkedIn profile, just reinforces the brand. So I think it's important that you can go type in flags for microphones, all kinds of companies. I paid about $140 for the last 3 mic flags I bought. It seems to be pretty fine. So that is my, oh, there we go. A mic flag. Yeah. It reinforces the brand as long as you can see it. Yeah, it's a good idea. It's another debate there. So That's just my opinion. I think you should focus on interview skills and promotion. And I think the technical part, don't waste your time on it. Talk to someone who's smart. Talk to John Miller and go, which one do you use? And I would, go to CBNE. I mean, I know people at NPR. I know people at WTOP, and I trust their advice more than mine. I always see these things on YouTube. Hey, my name's Rob Joels, and I like to. Well, are you an audio? Do you earn a living by understanding subtle differences between the microphones? And so that's my provocative discussion. I'll end the audio here, the video here, and just talk.
So I do use an XLR mic, and I use that because I do need to mix. I need to bring 2 or 3 or sometimes more people into the podcast in the same location. So I need to go through a mixer so I can mix that. So again, individual mics vary. They all sound a little different. I use a Rode Procaster, which I like it because it does have that cardioid polar pattern, and it only picks up right here. And if I keep talking at the same and I move away from my mic, you probably notice that the mic doesn't pick up as much. Right. So, and I did that for 2 reasons. One, because it's really good to have a mic that will reject all the other noise off axis. And number 2, I think John Gilroy mentioned you go off mic a lot. And I didn't know that term a lot at first because I'll have people in the studio, and if they're sitting across from the person, they're having a great conversation because they're looking right or talking right into the mic. But if they start talking to the person over here, and the sound quality goes away and they're off mic. And the first time I heard it, it was when I was doing it, and I looked away and somebody was like, off mic, off mic, off mic, you're off mic. So as important as the microphone is the technique that you use the microphone and staying on mic as opposed to being off mic.
Okay. Let me just weigh in. I really respect what, let's see, both Johns have said. And I wanted to let you guys know I'm a hack amateur musician. So my entire studio was started around a Shure SM57. Now you guys are all nodding because you can nail wood. You can put nails into wood with a Shure SM57. And that's why we use them when we're hack musicians, because you can drop them on the floor, as I have done hundreds of times. So my first few years at Podcast Village out in our Gaithersburg location was all built on Shure SM57s and a 58, an Audio Technica, a couple of those. And I didn't know, I agree, John Gilroy, John Miller, with what you've said. What works is the best. But I will tell you all that when I am asked as a Podcast Village guy, and I'm not as smart as you guys, I just, when I'm asked what I would do differently, I would have, because we were producing so many shows, not just one show, I would have upgraded my microphones a long time ago. And we're using these, I put it in the chat, the RE27s, pretty standard for, for what you see in radio use. When I partnered with Oscar and started moving into those studios where they were producing the Mike O'Meara show, and I sat down and I started talking on it, I went, oh shit, excuse me, everyone, because it was obvious to me, the quality. Now, what I would say to you, and maybe you guys know Matt Passy, but at Podfest in Florida, Matt had a wonderful table, and you could listen to 15 or 20 different microphones and how that. So if you ever get a chance to do that, I think that's a ton of fun, because I am a geek and I like all those gadgets. I love that stuff. This office is filled with that stuff. So, but if you get a chance to do that, I think that's a really valuable experience. My feeling is, however, if you're in it for the long run, I'm always worried about the listener's ear, and I want to do the very best production for that cocktail for the ear. So if I can compare the SM57 with this RE27, I'm going to go with the RE27 every single day. There's nothing wrong with the SM57. I built my business, the Shure 58 and 57. I built my business on it, but I would not go back. I would absolutely stay with a higher quality. And as John Gilroy said, high quality, the right headphones, so important. I remember the first year, all I did was buy the cheap ones, the $15 ones, and they're just waste. It's a waste of money. So now we get, this is pretty standard headphones, not as good as John's. They're not gamer headphones, although we have some of those here too. John's absolutely right. Some of that stuff is quality, We've researched the right headset to send our clients. We send out Comrex lines for most people for doing remotes. That's our remote solution. So, but just not to go on, and I have more dad jokes, but I would just say that it's really fun to be able to listen to and compare. And if I had known 5 years ago, I would have spent $300 on another couple of microphones. So, but I agree with both of you guys. It's what works for you. I caught up with someone who had started a podcast after talking to me, and I said, I won't mention who it was, and I said, you know, the sound quality is really crappy. And she started looking into it. She said, I had my microphone backwards. And then she moved into a closet because I told her, move into a closet because you won't have the whatever noise. And now she sounds great and her host sounds like she's in a damn bathroom. And so, but I don't want to be micromanager. She's not a client, and I don't feel like calling her up and telling her that. But you guys get what I mean. If you listen to 20 shows in one day, you're going to hear all sorts of different audio. What do you want to give your it's what John Gilroy was saying. Part of the marketing for me is giving the best damn quality audio I can for the listening experience. When I listen to Planet Money, when I listen to other shows that are produced, I'm queuing in on how easy, what is the cocktail? How much fun is this to listen to? So I firmly do believe in getting the microphone that works and then working up, bettering the experience. But by no way of saying, Shure SM57, you can be an amateur hack musician and a podcaster and do a damn good job. And that's what, I don't know if you guys remember, I think that's about $70 for a Shure SM57, I think. Anyway, I'll shut up. Thank you so much.
You know, and like I said, I'm going to listen a lot to the podcasting thing, but I can always talk to you from the presenting angle, and
Right.
and they do clash. They do come together a little bit. For instance, there's a survey out there where they ask from virtual deliveries, from actual people appearing, what is the most, what's the audience complaining about the most? And and they broke it down to lighting, they broke it down to sound, they broke it down to backdrop, they broke it down to your connection. And number one, believe it or not, was the backdrop. Number two was the sound. So I mention this only if you're going to, not that we're showing our audience a video, it's called a podcast, but our client is looking like I'm looking at you right now, Charlie, and our client, that's how I'm meeting you. And so we got to pay attention to the backdrop as well. And for instance, I really like the fact that there's kind of no nonsense behind you, Charlie, in terms of, I feel like I'm in a studio of some sort. It's, it's black, it's nice and dark, but we keep an eye on that. It does matter. And I'm noticing John Gilroy, for instance, is that virtual that you have behind you?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. It's a
Well,
data center.
The reason why I compliment you is because I can put up virtual right now for me. This isn't virtual. And a lot of, I'll break apart. My ear will disappear. My hand will disappear.
Right.
And you're holding up real well right now.
Right.
I'm usually kind of anti-virtual because I can always tell it's virtual.
Yeah.
And it's distracting. The person's breaking up on me.
Right.
But so I actually hang a curtain back there. That's a fake wall.